Hi and welcome to this week's 10 Questions in 10 Minutes, an interview series co-produced with MoCDA Museum of Contemporary Digital Art and SuperRare. I'm Stina Gustafsson, curator with MoCDA, and with us today we have Joshua Davis. Thanks for joining us, Joshua.
Hello everyone.
So before we kick off with the questions, I'm just going to introduce you shortly. Joshua Davis is designer, technologist, author, and artist in algorithmic image making and animation, and is acclaimed for his role in designing the visualization of IBM's Watson. He was the winner of the 2001 Prix Electronica, a golden Nica. His work has been exhibited in Tate Modern, the Design Museum in London, the Centre Pompidou, the ICA, the Guggenheim Museum Bilbao, MoMA PS1 New York, the Whitney, the Cooper Hewitt, and Smithsonian Design Museum, and many more. Thank you so much for having you.
Yeah, it almost sounds like I know what I'm doing.
So shall we get into the questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so first question. As mentioned in your bio, you seem to be having several roles within your professional life.
Yeah.
Designer, technologist, author, and artist. Do you identify more with any of one of these specific roles, or do they all kind of inform your creative work?
Yeah, no, I think I feel like I wear a lot of hats. You know, I started as a traditional painter. I went to art school out here in New York. That's where I'm at right now, is New York. I went to a school called Prix, and I studied painting. And so, you know, I've been an artist sort of all of my life, sort of always identified with expressing my feelings with shapes and colors. And, you know, it was while at school, I learned about computers and technology, and then started self-teaching myself programming. And then I wrote a book about the sort of tech. So I've sort of, you know, I still feel that I'm sort of this creative person, but I get to wear a lot of hats. You know, sometimes I do stuff for brands. And so then I take on the role as designer. So no, I don't feel aligned with anyone in particular. I just feel like I'm Josh Davis every morning.
That's great. That's perfect. So second question, what process do you have when it comes to starting a new art piece?
Yeah, so that is a great question, because I feel like maybe sometimes I don't do what normal people do, which is, you know, I think most people sort of have a concept, they sort of have an idea, and, you know, maybe they sketch that idea out, and then they open up whatever tools that they use to execute idea, and then they execute the idea, and they have a piece of artwork. I do not do that. I usually come into my studio here, and I sort of maybe have like a seed idea. And that's kind of the joy of working with programming is I'm, you know, writing programming, and that programming has a lot of algorithmic and naturalistic equations, and it usually means I'm surprised. So, you know, I'll start off with a seed idea, and then that idea will branch, and then usually the patterns will sort of reveal themselves. So I typically am all about the journey, but not necessarily the end destination.
Question number 3. What do you find to be the most giving in the process of creating your art?
I think it's that surprise. And the funny thing is that this kind of randomness and surprise started actually in painting. I joke that, you know, when I was doing oil painting, I would try like a lot of things. Like I would paint these canvases, and I would roll them up, and I would put them in my freezer. It just gets cold. Nothing happens. But I was executing these sort of like random processes, and some of my early analog work, I was actually baking them in the oven. And because I was using oil paint and resins, they would sort of dry at separate times, and it would cause the artwork to shatter. And so I liked that idea of like, okay, I've got a means to sort of execute something, but you're going to be surprised because you don't know what the outcome is. And so, you know, I think that kind of folds into question 2, which is, you know, a lot of times, you know, these programs that I'm writing here, you know, I may, you know, press a space bar on, you know, one of my programs to sort of try something new, and then sort of like, okay, well, what happens if I color it? And, you know, what happens if I, you know, do this? And then what happens if I do? And so I like the idea that there's sort of this surprise factor. And I think, you know, people who are seeing my work for the first time, I'm also seeing it for the first time because, you know, there's that sort of, you know, happy birthday, you know, this is what we do now. And so I think for me, that's kind of maybe the most gratifying about how I, you know, create my work.
Has there been any point in your life where you've taken a big risk to move forward with your artistic career?
Yeah, so I think the big risk for me was walking away from painting. You know, I had painted, you know, ever since I was 12. I think I was 12 when I got my first oil painting set.
That's pretty. That's early.
Yeah, I was 12 years old and I got my first oil painting set, and you know, my parents just didn't know. You know, they you know, and here I'll be over in the corner with the turpentine. You know.
I was only allowed acrylic, by the way. I was not allowed oil colors at all.
Yeah. So for me, I think that big leap was like embracing technology, and for me, you know, this transition was around 1994, 1995. And I sort of made that jump where, you know, it's like, okay, well, I'm still a painter. I'm just not going to use paint and brushes. I'm going to use computers, and I'm going to use pixels, and I'm going to use monitors. Now you have to remember, I'm old. I'm going to be 50 this year. And when I say, yeah, but when I say computers, I mean, like, my first computer, the monitor was just one color. It just did amber. You know, you had the choice of amber or green, kids. And then eventually, you know, we got 16 color video cards, and then we got 256 color video cards. So for me, that was like a tremendous leap of faith, because I was walking away from, you know, being able to use paint and brushes and having millions of colors to this computer that, you know, again, my first computer only had an amber screen. So for me, I felt like, how to identify as a painter, but embrace technology. And it was a huge risk at that time.
So this leads very nicely over to next question, which is, what's the first that comes to mind when I say Flash?
What's Flash?
Good question.
Yeah, what's Flash? What's Flash? I hear Flash is dead, which fine. It's fine. Listen, Flash was very good to me. I spent 15 years in Flash. You know, it was the medium that I jumped to, that springboarded, you know, my career. But you know, one thing that I always disliked about Flash was you know, that people who used it were always associated with its use. And, you know, like, we'd never say like, oh, you know, that's a really great Photoshop gal, or that's a really great Illustrator guy. Like Flash was always associated with its use. And I think when you're a creative, you know, you want to be a person about ideas, and a person about, you know, texture and color and transporting people places. And so I hated being associated with its use. But however, you know, I spent 15 years in Flash and then moved on to Java, and now moving on to other things. So I'm grateful, but, you know, time and space progresses.
Where on the internet do you go to find inspiration?
Oh, nowhere.
Nowhere.
No, I think for me, I think the internet is like one of the worst places to go for inspiration.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it's just, you know, why would I want to do that? You know, the internet is a landscape where people are trying things and expressing themselves, and so, you know, why would I want to use the internet to be a springboard for inspiration? I find a ton more inspiration, you know, playing video games, or listening to music, or going to concerts, or watching film. I'd say the internet is the worst place to get inspiration from.
That's a great answer, though. I have to say that. You don't go to internet to find inspiration. On some platforms such as SuperRare, you use the name Prix Station. Can you tell us the meaning behind it?
Yeah, so I think I bought PlayStation, the internet domain, back in 1996. And I remember being so excited, like, oh my God, I can't believe I got it. But I could have had like Coke.com. I could have made so much money buying and selling domains, but no, PlayStation. So the idea is video games. My first video game console, I think, was the Atari 2600, and then eventually we got the Commodore 64, and was just always enamored with non-passive media. So I've always loved video games because I'm a big role-playing guy. I'm not a first-person shooter kind of person, but I love the idea of being a participant in a medium. And so when I went to start my first sort of alias and website, it was PlayStation, which I thought was just going to be a hilarious joke on misspelling PlayStation wrong. And then the first project that we ever did on PlayStation was it was done in Shockwave Director, Macromedia Director. And it was a voodoo doll where you could enter someone's name. So I could enter your name on this voodoo doll, and then I could stick it with a bunch of pins, and then you could mail it to the recipient saying that, that they had been, they had voodoo applied to them. And so it was kind of this interesting play. Like I was going to make games, but maybe they had this sort of like religious connotation. I don't know. So it just stuck.
Funnily enough, when I was typing up the questions, I got autocorrected with PlayStation the whole time. There was just like, nope, not accepting PlayStation at all.
That's divine. Absolutely divine.
So what kind of legacy do you hope to leave with your work?
Who gives a shit? I don't think that's up for me to decide. Somebody told me really early on, and that if you have a foot in the past and a foot in the future, you're pissing on today. So all I know is right now, and right now I'm talking with all of you lovely people. I'm not concerned with the past, and I'm certainly not concerned with the future. I feel like I have a finite amount of time on this planet, and I've got a lot of really crazy ideas in my head. And each day I wake up and I embrace that day to try to, transport myself and other people to some weird universe that I'm creating. So legacy, that's, I think, for other people to determine. I'm not interested in any of that.
You are releasing, or you have already released, 3 new pieces on SuperRare.
Yeah.
What's the inspiration behind these new pieces?
Yeah. So, right now I'm only on SuperRare and just trying to understand the space and the platform. And so, I know this is supposed to be 10 minutes. I'm going to try to make this quick, but at the beginning of quarantine, like one of two things was going to happen. I was either going to install Animal Crossing and just like kiss my life goodbye and just be yelling at Tom Nook for the next 9 months and selling turnips, or I was going to try to, not procrastinate. And, you can't wake up in the morning and go, oh, I wish I had time to learn, Notch, or I wish I had the time to learn Touch Designer or Unreal Engine or GL. Like it was like the ultimate motivator. That's kind of the silver lining about this pandemic was that, yes, a lot of us were going through a really unfortunate time, but it was an opportunity to learn something new and try something new. And so
absolutely,
I've actually been in the crypto space for about 3 years and 2 months. I built an Ethereum miner because I had a bunch of GPUs. And so I was actually mining Ethereum here in my studio. And so I spent quarantine kind of coming up with this idea, and you're obviously seeing, some of it here, on screen, which is, I have taken this code base that is audio reactive. My mic is not turned all the way up, and I had to kind of reroute some cables, but I took all this code that I've been working on over the past couple of years and said, okay, well, how do I work on this project where I can exclusively release things on SuperRare that is, taking a culmination of kind of like 25 years of experience and turn it into this project called The Void. And The Void, you'll notice it's got a 0 and a 1 in rather than a O and an I, because it's digital. This is written in Java processing and GLSL shaders. And you know, this work requires a collaboration with a musician. So the first pieces that I released was with a friend of mine, Ben Lucas Boyson. The 3 that are up now are with a very good friend of mine, Zola Jesus. So I'm trying to collaborate with people who are in the musician space that can create these sort of experiences sonically that I then can tailor software around that says, hey, I'm listening to the audio, I'm visualizing and interpreting what I think that audio looks and feels like, and building these experiences. So the 3 that I just launched last night are with Zola Jesus, and it's super exciting for me because, again, I'm taking like 25 years of work and collaborating with musicians where I do these 50-50 splits. I mean, we're all, you know, I'm so grateful for my collectors, Fast, Tim Kang, now Brandon, who I think is in the chat. You know, it's you know, we're all in a situation right now where, you know, we're able to sort of monetize our experience, strength, and hope, and have people become patrons to this work. So I'm super grateful for the people who are enjoying the work. I'm super grateful to collaborate with musicians who are in a, you know, we're not partying at concerts anymore. So this is, for me, kind of like a holistic place to do these kind of collaborations. And in the future, I'm doing a thing with a guy who's the guitarist for the Flaming Lips. I got a lot of really great things coming up on the horizon. So I'm sorry that took so long.
No worries. You did actually already answer my last question. So we're going to go for a question from the audience instead, which is from Brandon Kang Films.
Brandon.
And it says, what was the most fun and most challenging part of your recent collaboration with Zola?
So, you know, Zola is an amazing person because she knows what she loves. She's got a very clear vision. And so this isn't the first time that we've collaborated. She did a concert here in New York at a space called Warsaw. And I just hit her up and I just said, I love you. I need you to love me. This is what I do. I do weird shit. And, you know, can I do visuals at your performance? And she was just like, fuck yes, let's do this. And so, oh my gosh, I was not going to try to curse. I apologize.
No worries. It's fine.
And so, you know, she's got a really great, clear vision and aesthetic. And so I think what becomes challenging when you work with collaborators is that, you know, we both have to benefit in some way. Like, you know, I want to feel challenged sonically, but like I want to be able to meditate and listen to the music and just say, you know, well, you know, what do I think this looks like aesthetically? And, you know, I'm listening to it sonically and I sort of have to interpret it in a way. And, you know, I then have to turn that around and give it back to Zola to say, you know, well, okay, you know, should this be color, or, you know, should this be black and white? You know, and so it becomes this sort of collaborative sort of push and pull where we're both trying to arrive at someplace magical, but there's compromise. And so I think, you know, the challenging part is that you're working with a person who probably also has a very distinct aesthetic and texture. And, you know, for me, that's exciting. So it's challenging, but it's also, okay, you know, I'm trying to possess the soul of another co-collaborator.
Sounds great.
But great question, Brandon. Thank you.
So that's it. That's all the questions, and thank you so much.
How did we do on time?
19 minutes and 20 seconds. So a bit longer, but it's fine. It's completely fine.
Thank you so much. I hope everyone enjoyed it.
It was great.
Thank you so much. Great.
And thank you to everyone who tuned in, and make sure to tune in next week as well when Untitled XYZ will be joining us. Bye.